This is the Master Marketing webinar here with Chris Smith, Jimmy Mackin, and Mike McGowan. Thank you all for spending some time with us this afternoon, both to the panelists and the attendees. We're about 4 minutes past the hour, so we can go ahead and get it kicked off here. Now, most, I would say, Chris and Jimmy really don't need an introduction, but I'll give one to keep it formal anyways. They're really the OGs or the grandfathers of real estate marketing. They both are the co-founders of Curaytor, if y'all don't know. How long has Curaytor been around now, guys?
Well, geez, Chris, I don't know how you feel about being called the OG grandfathers of marketing. We've been around that long, man. We've been around for about 8 years now. Eight very long years. They're sort of what we like to say when you're entrepreneurs and when you start a company and you run a business like Chris and I do, it's like presidential years, right? It sort of feels like dog years to a certain degree. Yeah, but we've been around since about 2012, 2013. We've been in this space and even longer than that. You know, we've been in this space for over a decade now, helping agents market their business in innovative ways to help them grow.
Very cool. Yeah, technology's come a long way in the past 8 years, huh? Especially in the real estate space.
Yeah, it has. You know, it's funny. Chris and I met because Chris had this blog that took the world by storm called Tech Savvy Agent. And maybe some of the audience here is familiar with Tech Savvy Agent, but Chris started this blog when he's working for Move, and it was a way to help educate the masses on how to use technology to grow their business. And Tech Savvy Agent was such an innovative, I think in some respects kind of this micro media company where Chris was able to, I think, push the industry forward 5 years just by his enthusiasm and excitement around technology. And what he was able to do, which will sort of be a large part of his legacy, is he was able to attract all of the like-minded real estate agents in our industry around kind of this common community. Mm-hmm. Because there was people in real estate, because back then, Randy, what was happening was we saw a certain part of the industry was hanging on to the old guard. They were trying to say, like, ignore social media, it's stupid. And then you had a minority that was saying the world is moving in a different direction. And Chris was really the champion of that movement, and really was the person who was the catalyst behind all of it. So yeah, we've been at it for a long time and educating agents on how to grow their business using technology, all the way back when QR codes were something special, right? All the way back then, Chris.
Yeah. Well, also on the call today, we've got Mike McGowan. He's the VP of Sales at Chime Technologies. He has his own experience in the real estate background, but in his first year at Chime Technologies, he's actually able to double the business through a series of strategies. So he certainly does have some marketing background as well, in addition to getting your MBA from Arizona State.
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and get kicked off. Just to kind of phrase the webinar today, we're living in very much a virtual first world, and in the past 8 years, online marketing has grown in its reach, and it's wider than ever now. But where to spend your marketing dollars or how to spend them has become equally as important, because everyone's, maybe not everyone, but a large percentage of people today, larger than almost ever, are pretty strapped for cash. So how you spend them, where you spend them, and the message that you send when you're spending your marketing dollars is all really, really important. So these are some of the questions or some of the concepts I want to break down today here while I've got you, Jimmy, Chris, and Mike. So with that being said, first things first, the conversion code, Chris, has been the real estate marketing Bible, if you will, for quite a few. Mm-hmm. But things have changed, right? And if you were to update the conversion code today, maybe conversion code 2.0, what are some of the things you would add to it today?
Yeah, great question. It's funny because in the conversion code, I said Facebook is the internet. And what's funny is right now, right in the middle of the COVID crisis, traffic, clicks, leads from Facebook are at an all-time high. So
you were an oracle.
I was an oracle, but you know what it was? I just recognized that AOL was the internet, and then Google was the internet, and then Facebook became the internet. This guy told me, he said, we're going from a web of pages to a web of people. And that layer of social media, having all of the content that we consume filtered through people we trust, it's just a no-brainer. And it's always funny when people ask me, what would I update? What most of the people listening right now would want to do is go back and do the conversion code 1.0, because people are so quick to look for the next big thing and they haven't done the last thing correct yet. So like, as an example, having Facebook ads with great images, having Facebook ads with the right budget, having Facebook ads with the right audience, having a Facebook ad with the right call to action, having a Facebook ad with the right destination, where the ad leads. Those things are still critical to the success of a Facebook ad. Now, I will say HUD and, the government, they made a massive change since the book came out. They basically have changed the way that you're allowed to target your ads. And it's created a challenge. Real estate is hyper-local. And a lot of the communities and a lot of the agents that we work with, like where Jimmy's at there in the North End, it's a very, very geographically small location. It's not 15 miles wide. And now they make you target within 15 miles of a location. So what I would recommend, and what I would spend a lot more time on if I wrote the book again today, is what we call qualifying through copywriting. Targeting and the formula with which you created an audience to target used to be the way that you qualified. Because you could target people by income, you could target people by net worth, you could target people by home ownership, yes or no, and all those got taken away. So the way that you qualify when you don't have all those targeting is you qualify by copywriting. So as an example, if I'm Jimmy and I'm targeting an ad and I really want to focus on people that live in the North End, instead of being so obsessed about the radius, I would just make sure that the images and the writing in the ad spoke to the North End. Do you own a condo in the North End? Would you like to know what your North End condo is worth? Because what will happen is, for the people that see that ad that don't live in the North End, they're not going to click it. We used to have to do this for seller ads. When you would do a home value ad back in the day, a lot of people just ran an ad that said, would you like to know what your home's worth? If so, click here. And they would get a lot of tire kickers. They would get a lot of people that wanted like a Zestimate. It wasn't like a real qualified lead. But if you just change the copy and you say something like, are you selling your home soon? Would you like to know what it's worth before you do? The ability to warm that lead up and make sure that lead is further down in the funnel is better than ever. So the targeting went away, but the ability to use copywriting to target the right folks is still there. The images and the copy. The other thing I would say is, Instagram really took off. Like when I wrote the first book, I put a couple tips about Instagram in there, but it was just getting going. And the way I explain Facebook and Instagram is Facebook is Google and Instagram is Google Images. And so if you're looking for branding and reach, and you're looking for engagement and likes, Instagram stories, there would be a whole chapter just on Instagram because it's become such a valid platform. People just hop around their phone, Randy. They hop from number one, Facebook, then they hop over to Instagram, then they go into their inbox, then they go on Zillow, then they go to Google, then they go back to Instagram.
Yeah.
People are logging on to these things all day long. So for me, it would be, I would teach a lot more about copywriting because quality copy has been around for 100 years. Newspapers, billboards, mail, print, every piece of marketing that you do, digital or not, can be improved by better copywriting. And then Instagram has really exploded. Instagram is something that I would spend more time on as well. But great question.
So tying some two ideas together, real estate is a very local experience. Thus, your copywriting needs to be a very local experience as well.
Yeah. Do you own a home in 32828? Would you like to know what your 32828 home is worth? If so, go here. Because the people that don't live in 32828, they're going to ignore that, which is fine. Sometimes what your marketing has to do is it has to eliminate people, not just attract people.
Certainly.
If you own a home in Avalon Park and you want to know how the coronavirus has affected the value of your home or will affect it, click here. So a lot of times people, they want to do the targeting and the budget, but I look at Facebook ads and I look at Facebook posts from real estate agents all day long. And a lot of it is subpar. It is not compelling. It's not well written. It's not well spaced out. So I would say copywriting, anybody can buy books on copy. Jimmy, I think you recommend a book called Copy That Sells. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah, my favorite quote on copywriting, Chris, is by John E. Kennedy when he said, copywriting is salesmanship in print.
Yep.
And this was the 1900s, right? And it's this idea, and you bring up such an interesting point that I don't want people to miss here, Chris, is that oftentimes when you're running any type of marketing campaign, you have such a deep desire to get people to opt in, fill out a form, pick up the phone, call you. So the tendency for amateurs who don't do this for a living is to try to appeal to the widest audience because they're afraid of what will happen if someone sees that ad and doesn't feel like it's for them. And what they fail to realize, what Chris just articulated, is the fact that that is exactly what you want to do. You want to repel 95% of people who see an ad, who open an email, who come to visit your website, so you can have a deep, meaningful connection with the 5% that actually you should be working with. So I think it's something, Chris, that is probably one of the more understated benefits of being great at marketing is developing the skill of writing copy that sells, copy that motivates, copy that gets people to perform an action, fill out a form, reply to an email, pick up the phone and call you. And the word that comes to mind, Chris, as you're talking through all of that, and it's probably the single most important word in marketing in 2020 and beyond, is relevancy. And everything we do from a marketing perspective, we have to think about, is this relevant for my target audience? Is it something that adds value for them? Does it help them solve the problems?
Mm-hmm. Let me give one other book recommendation because I read a book that no one's read. I know no one's read it. It's called The Wizard of Ads. The Wizard of Ads. And it's this guy that used to be an ad agency executive, and he would just write letters to all of his clients. And it's a collection of all the different letters. The Wizard of Ads. It really does start with compelling copy. Now, the reality is the images matter too. The call to action matters too. The landing page and the destination matters too. But I think people could level up. Like if you read enough MLS descriptions, right, you start to see that people are not using the most variance copy. Everything's a cute, charming bungalow. Everything has the same verbiage. Like get a thesaurus. Every time you go to write a description for the MLS, grab a thesaurus and see if there's 3 ways you can say that without saying it the way you've always said it. I just think it's good advice. The Wizard of Ads. People will love that book.
Awesome. I'll put that book in the chat for everyone. Some really, really valuable points already. Going over to Mike. So Mike, Chime's been known for its innovation in pretty short order, relatively young company, but already on the leading edge of technology, I would say. What does innovation look like for Chime in regards to marketing? A few questions here. What forms of marketing does Chime see as most effective for the real estate professional?
So I think to frame this properly, you've got to think about innovation as where the source of that idea or need or desire comes from. First of all, it's with partnering with folks like Jimmy and Chris and with Curaytor, because they are the experts in the space. I think you have to listen to your clients as well. And I think you have to understand and really listen to what they're asking for, and to see if you can solve it, or if you can solve it with partners like a Curaytor. And number three, you have to look at what your competitors are doing. And all the agents out there should be looking at what the best agents in their markets are doing vis-a-vis marketing, copy, what have you, and try to emulate that, but differentiate themselves at the same time. To answer the question, I think our marketing is not the front. It's not the front end. That's where folks like Curaytor come from, right? They're the brand awareness. They're the lead generation. They're the social media presence, right? They're driving people into the funnel. When they come to us, when we have them, we now have to differentiate ourselves in how we communicate with them once we've either touched base with them or haven't, and ongoing. Not everybody that falls into a real estate funnel is going to buy or sell real estate tomorrow. We all know that. It's a long-term game. And so marketing for what it looks like from Chime is differentiating ourselves in what we give them in terms of an experience, an IDX site that is user-friendly. The images are great. Everybody likes to go there because it's easy to navigate through. It's easy to save things. It's easy to share things. It's easy to walk through that. Then we give them what they're looking for. We give them property alerts that are exactly what they're looking for. We give those sellers comps as to what's in their locality. We're giving them what they're looking for, and we're making it easy for them. We have an AI chatbot that will interact, and it's constantly machine learning. So it's not just a basic 4-script kind of bot. It's actually interacting and helping them in their search, whatever that search may be. Right. So our marketing it's geared toward the bottom end of the funnel, not the very bottom, but the middle to the bottom of the funnel. And we have to make sure that we're providing our clients, and we have to make sure that realtors are using the features that we have in order to keep driving them down in that funnel, whether that's a 3-month, a 6-month, a 19-month deal, which is the average amount of time a lead is in a realtor's database, 19 months. We have to make sure that our engagement is the best and it's differentiated from everything else that's out there. We just released a live streaming with YouTube and Facebook. That's going to help people today to continue to drive people through a funnel. When this curtain lifts, there's going to be somewhat of a frenzy out there, and we want to make sure our folks are best prepared for it. That's what innovation relative to marketing means for us. Not necessarily the same as a Curaytor. They're more the experts on the front end than we are, but that's why we have these kinds of relationships.
So, let me just add one thing to that, Randy.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen, Mike, is right now nurturing is going to be more important than selling. Mm-hmm. You know, the world changed. And if you are not in a position through marketing automation, through listing alerts, through email marketing, if you're not nurturing leads, you're going to lose them all. Because the reality is that there's going to be less listings and there's going to be less buyers for a while. And now there's still going to be deals. We got clients closing deals every single day. You know what I mean? Well, there's still transactions being done. But I was talking to one of our clients this weekend in Toronto. There's 85% less listings year over year. 85% less. So the people that are not listing are going to list. Mm-hmm. And the people that are not buying are going to buy. And that's critical. So when you talk about nurture, you know, the middle of the funnel and the top of the funnel, we want the bottom of the funnel. But the bottom of the funnel is going to be a little bit lighter for a while. So if you want it when the market resurges, you're going to have technology like Chime keeping you in front of people, like you said, Mike, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. It's going to be critical. I was looking at some data from HubSpot. What's really fascinating right now is that marketing is actually working better than ever. More emails opened, more website traffic, more leads registering, more clicks, more reach. And by the way, at a lower cost. The cost to generate the marketing, because everybody's pulling their spend out. Mm-hmm. And that's the time to double down. But you may not convert those leads until things stabilize. In many states, things are starting to stabilize.
Yeah.
And you want to be there when they're ready. So the quote from my book that I think a lot of people resonated with is that the fortune is in the follow-up. We can put leads in your CRM all day long. It's just like opening up a faucet. But if you're not keeping in touch with them through automation and through relevant messaging, you may as well never put them into the bucket if the bucket's leaky.
And great points, Chris. And I think something else that maybe a lot of people are overlooking is you've had this database for how many years that you've been in the business, and you've grown this database of people, past clients, potential buyers and sellers, what have you, for an extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And this situation may have changed their mindset. It may have changed their lives. It may have forced them to relocate. It may have forced them to move. Mm-hmm. What are you doing with what you already have? Never mind what you're going to generate today or tomorrow, but what are you doing with what you already have? And what kind of tools do you have to identify those people? That's extra important today, because that's today money, right? And the rest of it at the top and in the middle, that's tomorrow money. But what about today money when we're still working to get through? You mentioned that there's less listings and there's less transactions, but they're still there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is coming from the database that maybe you haven't touched in 2 or 3 years, but those people, their situations have changed. What have you done of value to check in with them lately? And what has your marketing automation done of value to keep them close?
No, those are all excellent points. Those are excellent points. Let me shift gears here. Now that we've talked a little bit about the lead generation aspect and long-term nurture, I want to talk a little bit more about the experience that leads have. Jimmy, Curaytor is very much a thought leader and has built a raving fan type client base. Anytime I talk to someone using Curaytor, they love you guys. They love what you've done for their business. How could some of the strategies you've used to build a raving fan base translate to realtors, and what do they need to be doing in their business so that when they have past clients and sphere of influence out about in the world, they're raving fans of the realtor?
There's an interesting thing that we've been seeing and observing during this crisis, which is the businesses who have been able to survive are the ones who have invested in building a community. And what I have observed from my vantage point is any business that can develop a strategy that's dedicated towards building up advocacy of customers who already know, like, and trust them, you put yourself in a position where your customers can be your marketers. The holy grail of this, Randy, is when a customer can share with the prospective customer your value proposition, what it is that makes you different, what makes you special, what makes you unique, why someone should hire you. And that requires a strategy just like running a complex Facebook, advertising campaign, driving them to a landing page, putting them on a long-term nurture. Like, we strategize a lot when it comes to lead acquisition, but we tend to sort of phone it in when it comes to customer retention. And we know, if you look at the data, it's 6 to 7 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to retain an existing customer. So my advice to those of you who have a database of past customers who have loved you at one point and maybe you have neglected to follow up with them is to take this opportunity to try to bridge that gap again, to reconnect with them. And one of the things that you could do during this time, and we give our customers a script. I want you to just imagine for one moment. You've got a buyer or seller that maybe you worked with 2 years ago. It was a great relationship. They gave you a 5-star review on Zillow. They told you that you were amazing, but maybe you haven't stayed in touch with them. Maybe it's been 2 years since you reached out. And let's say the reality is you're probably saying to yourself, well, I don't want to come off as insensitive just to sort of randomly reach out and say, hey, by the way, I'm not too busy for referrals. I've got to figure out a way to reconnect with them in some way. Well, one of the things you should do in this context is first, acknowledge the fact that it's been too long. That's the first thing. That's going to be on Chris's Instagram. He always gets it when I'm like I'm like talking halfway through, my mouth's open. He always makes sure he looks good, and the rest of us doesn't care. He'll have a filter on that. So here's my point. First thing, acknowledge the fact that it's been a long time. The second thing is, why are you reaching out? You have to have we call it RTC, reason to call. What's the reason you're reaching out to your past client? And then can you stop thinking about maybe that one-off, like get a referral, get a lead, get an opportunity, and maybe just reestablish the relationship so you can re-earn the communication going forward. So I might say something along the lines, Randy, like, hey, Randy, it's been way too long since I reached out. I saw your post on Facebook today, and I just want to check in with you and see how things are going. Just get the conversation started. Hey, it's been way too long since I reached out. I saw your post on Facebook. I came across this article I thought you might value. Hope all is well. And the fact is that every day you should be doing this with your past clients, not thinking about long-term, can I convert this? Let's just keep building that relationship. Now, when it comes to building a business where you have a fanatical community, people love you, like Curaytor, we're not perfect. Don't get us wrong. We have learned a lot building this company, Chris and I, over the last 8 years. But man, one thing we have gotten right is how we treat our customers. We go the extra mile. And when we screw up, we take it on the chin, but we spend a lot of time listening to our customers. One of the things that we do, what we've done recently, which I really encourage those of you who are on a team right now, I beg you, this could be something that could transform your business. Every week we have a series at Curaytor called Get to Know Your Customer. And what we do is we invite in one of our clients, not to talk about Curaytor, but talk about what it's like to be a real estate agent. And we ask them questions like, what keeps you up at night? What's your goals? What's your dreams? What's your ambitions? Why did you start your career? Why did you choose real estate as a career? And it's a way for our team to begin to empathize with our customer base and our clients, what it's like to do their job every day. And the equivalent for real estate, Randy, would be if you run a team, call up a client of yours who bought a house 3 months ago and just ask them, hey, listen, we just want you to talk us through the journey of buying a house for the first time. And just share with my team, what were the thoughts that are going through your mind? What were you concerned about? What were your fears? What were you looking for in a real estate agent? What was the most frustrating part? And let your entire team hear that. Because when they go out, now they can begin to empathize with future customers, and the customers they're reaching out to actually feel like they're heard. This is something that nobody does in real estate. And it's crazy because every other company in the planet that's a Fortune 500 company does like a focus group. We don't do that in real estate. We just assume that we know what our customers want because we work with, selling real estate for 10 years. It's the worst mistake you can make in a business, is assume that you understand your customers. You got to earn it every day, and you got to ask questions like that to get that information.
Yeah, I'm going to drop 2 links in the chat, Randy. I have 2 links that I think people would enjoy. One is one of our clients that did exactly that. Her name's Connie Carlson. And when you look at her—
she's here in Atlanta.
Yeah, she's in Atlanta. When you look at her success stories, these are really in-depth interviewers with the buyer and seller about exactly why they loved working with her. The other thing I'm going to drop is what Jimmy's talking about is a technique and an ideology called people work. How can you use technology to put people first? We live in a digital first world more than ever, by the way, because of COVID. And so I have a book that I wrote. It was my first book. I'm going to give this to everybody right now. It's a free ebook. And that is a book called People Work, How to Put People First in a Digital First World. And Jimmy's right. Whether you do good work or bad work, you have to be a human. Human companies win. Human beings have traits like humor. Human beings have traits like honesty and personalities, and they care. And if you mess up with your wife, you buy her chocolates and flowers. You mess up with your customers, you duck and hide, right? So I think Jimmy's right. Like, one of the quotes about business that I've always loved is that you have to build your community before you need it. And that's what we're seeing happening now, is now that the shit's hitting the fan, now that things are getting a little tough, it's too late to build the community. You needed to be building it leading up until now. If you want to be what our clients call the digital mayor, you have to do that a little bit every single day. So people with vibrant Facebook groups, it's a great place to either build a community or be a part of it. Going on Nextdoor, same thing. Great place to be a part of the community. But yeah, empathy, compassion, trustworthiness. These are not usually terms that the business world embraces. The business world is usually things like accounting, spreadsheets, profit and loss. And I'll be honest, and I think you would agree with this, Jimmy. If it weren't for us putting people first, we might not even be a business. If you don't go, well, because what I look at is you've got to be building that social capital every day.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose some of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Chime is an amazing technology. It's going to crash every now and then. You know what I'm saying? Curaytor is an awesome company. We're going to screw up every now and then. So you've got to be stacking that goodwill and that, you know, love so that when you mess up, you don't just fall apart. And that's absolutely what we're seeing. And I would also say, like, with this, when it comes to CRM, which is where Chime is so strong, I had a lady come up to me in 2009 and I was selling CRM at the time, and she was crying and she hugged me and she thanked me. And she said, if I didn't have my database when the market crashed, I would have had to have gotten out of the industry. If I didn't have my sphere of influence and my past clients and my leads, if I didn't have them in a database that was incubating them and telling me when to call them and telling me when to send them a letter, I would have been out of the business. And I think we're going to see that again today. Your database is going to be critical to survival over the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, and just to add one thing there, just to echo what Chris is saying about our partnership with Chime, you know, we were actually in September of this year, we were on the tail end of researching partners to work with for the better part of 3 or 4 months. This is a decision that we didn't take lightly for our customers. And the fact that Mike and Eric and Steven were willing to get on a plane, fly to Boston, spend an entire 2 days with us to talk about how the partnership could make both companies better, that decision they made sealed the deal for our customers and sealed the deal for us. And it was a big deal for them, and it was a big deal for us. So this idea of your customers want you to go deep, they don't want you to go wide. When you're just out there touching every single customer, liking their posts, as opposed to actually doing the work to thoughtfully show up in a meaningful way, you sort of can start to build relationships that have a transformative effect for your business. One quick piece of advice here that I have for everyone, though, as you were saying that, Chris, I was thinking about people work, and I was thinking about, you know, what you focus on, you find, which is something that, you know, you've taught me for many years, this idea. I think right now, and I'm just curious in the chat right now, if we can get some feedback from you guys, how many of you right now have lost a deal in the last 4 weeks? Buyer has backed out. They told you, hey, listen, I'm going to hold off for a little while. Not sure where things are going to shake out. Or a seller says, I'm going to wait until this thing's over to put my home in the market. Just in the chat, just give us a thumbs up. Just say, yes, it's happened to me. Give us some feedback. Because what we're seeing on our end here is we're seeing that a lot of businesses are making the mistake, Randy, of focusing in on the deals they lost.
Mm-hmm.
And they wake up, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're frustrated. They had this buyer, they've been driving around for 6 damn months, showing 30 different properties, and they just backed off, right? And we're seeing people in the chat saying, yeah, it's happened to me. You've got to focus on the players who are in the game, because there are still plenty of buyers and sellers who are in the game right now. So what you focus on is what you find. Put your head in the game. Forget about who's on the sidelines right now. They will come back eventually. But what we're seeing from our vantage point is we are seeing that even though there are fewer listings in the market, even though there are fewer buyers in the market, there's still people in the market who need to buy and need to sell now. And those need to be the customers you're messaging to, not the people on the sidelines, people who are actually in the game. This is something agents has got to embrace. And they got to let go of the negativity, and they got to let go of the people they can't control here, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's an excellent point.
That goes back to community as well. I mean, Chris, you articulated it perfectly. Community is huge, and if you didn't have the community before, now's not the right time to build one necessarily. You know, one of the things is Randy can attest to when we got here at Chime was we wanted to build the community, and we wanted people of influence who knew what they were doing and knew what they were talking about to be part of what we do every day and how we communicate with our clients and the value that we bring them. An individual realtor in Phoenix, Arizona, or in LA or in Boston can do the same thing with the people that are around them. There's tremendously successful real estate professionals everywhere. and tapping into those people who also have time on their hands now and learning what to do with the time that we have free for ourselves now is very, very important. The community can show you that. And Randy, you mentioned, and thank you for doing that, the doubling of the business because of the community, not because of any, the primary, the number one cause of that was the community that we started to build very early on. And everybody can continue to tap into that, regardless if they're Curaytor clients or Chime clients or what have you, part of Lab Code Agents, part of anything, right? They can tap into lots of professionals from across the country and locally and say, what could I be doing better with my time? How can I better leverage my calendar right now? Because it's important that I stay productive, I stay in the game, to your point, Jimmy, I stay in the game, and I come out of this with my head held high and ready to go again when business starts transacting again.
The real estate industry by nature is quite community driven, right? I'm the best realtor in this community. I know this neighborhood the best. There is a significant professional community available to realtors today where there's a significant amount of intellectual capital that now is the absolute best time to be tapping into. Because if we look 2 months back, 3 months back, January and February, our sales team can attest, Mike, I'm sure curators can as well. You call any realtor, they tell you how busy they are, right? So those busy realtors right now need to turn around, look into their professional community, get as much value out of it as they can, and also make sure your CRM is up to date, right? Jimmy, if you're looking to call your past clients and you look in your CRM and you did a transaction with, customer A, but there's no information and no notes in there, that's going to make it a little more difficult to remember that relationship if there was even once at all. But you also offered a great solution without even realizing it. Check their Facebook. Just check their Facebook, check their post, and call them about that, regardless of whether or not you even had any conversations about that in the past.
One thing you brought up, and it's something Chris mentioned earlier about this importance of using copywriting. I have yet to meet a real estate agent who has an organized database. I just haven't. So, I've stopped trying to convince people.
Every Chime client is organized. Every Chime client is organized.
I've seen their databases. They ain't organized. Listen, the reality is that, like, I think it's a living, breathing thing. So let me give your audience and let me give our community here a bit of a different perspective on this idea. Because I'll tell you what we do at Curaytor that has worked well for us. What we do at Curaytor is we market and then we sell it to people who engage with our marketing. And we stop worrying about what tag they have, what stage they're in. We stop worrying about what notes they have, any email communication. We create great marketing and then we engage and sell on the back of that. That's always been our philosophy. Create, advertise, blast, and then sell. Create great content, advertise it and promote it on social media, send it out as an email to your database, and then go sell. And I think as it relates to the audience here who's listening today, one of the things that you can do right now, as soon as this call is over, using your Chime technology, is to send an email blast out. And the email blast can quite simply say this: have your plans changed? Question mark. That's the actual subject line of the email. And it says in the email copy, it say, first off, I hope you're doing well, staying safe. Many of my clients right now were planning on buying and selling a house this year, period, right? I wanted to reach out personally to see, have your plans changed? Question mark. That's it. And you can tweak that a little bit, but you don't want to add 6 paragraphs of context here. Just, hit them with that short, sweet, to the point, brevity. And what you can do on the back of that is, as people are opening up the email, you can personally reach out to them and follow up, text, call, check in with them. Hey, I sent you an email just checking in, seeing if your plans have changed. We're reaching out to our community to see how we can be of service to them. But then what's going to happen in addition to that, you're going to get people to actually reply to that email, and now you have your call list of the day and people to follow up with. So I just want you to be aware of the fact that as it relates to organizing your CRM, there's one way to do it, which is to meticulously go through every tag, properly put it in the right bucket, put them in the right pipeline, put them on the right action plan, or you can do great marketing and then call on the back of that. And we choose at Curaytor to do the latter. We choose to focus on great marketing and then call people who are interested. And that's why we don't have to have an ISA. That's why we don't have to call block for 6 hours. That's why we don't have to, door knock. We just do great marketing and call people who are interested. So I think there's another approach here, Randy, to the point of working your database that starts with marketing.
Absolutely. And I would say that seems significantly more efficient, because now you're dealing with the people who are the hand raisers rather than trying to hunt down the cold lead who never actually responds to you.
Exactly.
So I want to touch on something that we briefly mentioned in the beginning when you were talking about using copy to qualify leads, Jimmy. I think it's pretty well known by now, right? I don't know who originally said this, but everyone's claiming they did. We don't have a lead generation problem. We have a lead conversion problem. What are some things you think that agents could be doing today to help close that gap on the lead conversion process? And what role does your marketing play in that?
Yeah, I'll pass that to Chris as it relates to lead conversion, because he wrote the book on it.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes down to, there's a technique in my book called STS, and it's an acronym, and it's speed, tenacity, and scripts. What happens is when you do the hard work to get a lead, you've got to be able to follow up with that lead quickly. There's data around this. If you follow up with a lead within 5 minutes compared to within 30, you increase your contact rate by 100x. 100x. People are so distracted that when you've got their attention, when they opt in, when they fill out that form, you got to be able to pounce on it. And I know a lot of the technology helps with that. Auto text, auto email, AI assistant, those things are huge for that. The second thing though is tenacity. When you reach out to a lead once, the average contact rate is 48%. When you continue to reach out, by the 6th attempt, people's contact rate goes all the way up to 93%. So one way to double the number of contacts would be to double the number of leads. But the other way would be to double the effort. So if you're willing to follow up the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and by the way, these 6 attempts should really be happening in the first 3 days. 3 attempts on the first day, 2 attempts on the second day, 1 attempt on the third day. And then the last technique is just like scripting. And I'm not talking about a big paragraph of, memorized copy. But when you get on a call, you need to know how the call is going to unfold. You need to know the questions you're going to ask, in the order you're going to ask them, and the follow-ups you're going to ask. And you need to know what your pitch is, right? You need to know what the features and the benefits are of working with you. Because winging it is really tricky. Like, you can wing it with your friends and family. You can wing it with your past clients and with your sphere. If you're calling any of those people, just hit dial and just see how it goes. But if you're calling an internet lead, you're calling a lead from Zillow, or you're calling a lead from Realtor.com that just came in, you can't wing it with internet leads. You've got to know what you're going to say before you're going to say it. So it comes down to speed, it comes down to tenacity, and then it comes down to scripts. And then you just have to ask yourself, do I have a technology problem, or do I have a people problem? Do I need to optimize my technology to help me with these processes? Or do I need to optimize my staff? A lot of times you're just short-staffed. If you don't have buyer's agents to route the leads to, put them in the lead pond, hot potato the leads, all the cool things Chime can do. And then the other thing that I would just say would be, and right now it's really hard. Right now it's about mindset. I always say the best salespeople, effort, mindset, and skill. Effort, mindset, skill. So when your mindset is negative, you're not wanting to put in the effort. And even if you put in the effort, but your skill's not there, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like the Abraham Lincoln quote about chopping down trees. You should spend most of your time sharpening your axe. So I would also look at that as I would check myself and say, is it my effort? Is it my mindset? Or is it my skill? If it's skills, read the conversion code, read books, read blogs, read podcasts, get into masterminds, educate yourself. If it's effort, work harder, dial more, add an hour to the beginning and end of each day. And then if it's mindset, right now mindset's tough because I can't pick up my phone without seeing the updated, list of how many corona cases there are, how many deaths there are, all the doom and gloom. So, avoiding the news and avoiding the media and avoiding some of that stuff can actually be really helpful. What are you consuming that's positive? Because what you put in is what you put out. And I'm not immune to this. I don't think Jimmy's immune to this. It's hard right now. Everything you see about the unemployment rate, everything you see about, listings coming off the market, it's tough. But those are things that are out of your control.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really well said, Chris. I think, one thing that I've always admired about a great salesperson is they tend to have such a positive outlook on life because their days are so riddled with rejection. Every time I talk to Mike, he's in a good mood, and maybe because he's golfing and he's in a good mood, or for other reasons, but he's always in a good mood when I talk to him, right? And I always like to joke that Chris Smith is my life coach because I have a call with him and I'm fired up afterwards, right? It's that's to exude that positivity and energy. I think the world needs more of that now than ever before, and I think that's something that great salespeople do, and they do it really well. And they do it consistently, and they do it when they don't even feel it themselves.
Yep. Chris, I want
a bit of forced enthusiasm.
Yep. Chris, I want to piggyback on something you mentioned about optimizing technology. And mind you, with what I'm about to say, this comes from a guy who sells technology, right? So in the real estate industry, we buy so much technology because it's the coolest, it's the latest, it's the neatest thing, right? In this time when we're looking at our P&Ls and we're trying to figure out, what's the best use of my dollars today. If you have technology and it's not helping you either generate or convert leads, if it's not helping you, if it's not setting you up to be more productive and to have more transactions when this curtain rises, you probably don't need it, right? And again, this is coming from a guy who sells technology. There's a lot of technology out there that's really, really nice to have. But what we have to focus on is what we need to have. And what we need to have is, as Chris mentioned very, very, very eloquently before, how we nurture our database and how we nurture the people we've either done business before or just on the periphery or what have you. That's the most important thing right now, how we're adding value to that database, how we're adding value to the people we want to work with. And some of those nice to have technologies, if it's not helping you get a transaction, take a second look at it. I'm not saying get rid of it, but take a second look at it. But the absolute must technology and the things that we do every day and the things that have made you successful, double down on those, because that's what's going to get you through all of this.
Said in another way, maybe, if you have technology that isn't allowing you to be human to more humans in a human business, it's probably a distraction. And I want to pull a nugget out of what Chris said, and I want him to correct me if I'm wrong. But from the comments you made on Tenacity, I believe then a realtor who has 100 leads and calls them 10 times each is going to be more successful than a realtor who has 1,000 leads and calls them each once.
Yeah, I don't have my calculator, but yes, you're going to make contact with 93% of the leads you call a lot, and you're going to make contact with 40% of the ones that you call once or twice. And I've done seminars all over the world, and I ask people, has anybody ever had a lead that they didn't ever call, or that they called once, or that they maybe called twice? And the reality is that people just give up. They just give up too soon. And that effort is critical, especially right now. Like, people are saying, what should I do once I've called all my past clients in my sphere? You should call them again.
Yeah.
Just
Certainly.
keep rotating through it. Keep those conversations going. Have a couple conversations per day. You know, conversations create customers. And like a lot of times in sales, we look at how many dials did I make? How many contacts did I make? How many leads did I add? In the mortgage business I used to be in, how many credits did I pull, you know? But what the most important metric is how many meaningful conversations did I have today? Because if you can have 5 or 6 meaningful conversations per day, you're good. That's good. And it might take 100 dials to get it. It might take 50 dials. Like if you do what Jimmy said and you do great marketing and then you follow up with the people that the marketing worked on, you know, we usually can't dial through 10 or 15 people without getting 5 or 10 to want to talk to us. But meaningful conversations create clients.
And I think it's important to point out that Fortune 500, you know, massive professional sales teams monitor that number. That is a KPI, you know, qualified, meaningful conversations is something they pay attention to. So why wouldn't it be something that a sales organization like a real estate company would pay attention to?
Yeah, I think one of the breakthroughs that people have, Randy, when they think about their business, the moment you stop thinking about yourself as a real estate agent and you start thinking of yourself as an entrepreneur who happens to sell real estate, the moment your world changes. You know, Chris and I have a podcast called The Water Cooler. We've interviewed the best agents from all across the country. And it's the one common characteristic I see. They run their company like they're a business that just happens to sell real estate. And if you're looking for examples of this in history, Randy, look no further than what Target did during the last recession. Back in the dot-com boom, where you know, the sky was falling and people were losing their jobs and there was no end in sight. And even though this recession has been a steeper downturn, you know, people are expecting sort of a V-shaped recovery. Back then, it was the world was over. It was sort of this, they call it the L recovery, which is a steep decline and then just being flat, right? Well, during that time, what Target did that other companies didn't do in the space, the Kmarts of the world and other, you know, Marshalls and Macy's, is Target actually decided to play defense like everybody else. They started cutting costs and consolidating their businesses, but they also had an offensive strategy, which they began to expand in key areas where they felt they could win. And those investments that they made during the downturn is what actually built them into being the company they are today. So when Mike talks about finding technology that is going to help, you know, help your business today, for me, like at a certain point, you're just going to have to act like you're going to be here 3 months from now. Start making some offensive moves here. Start getting out there and planning like you're going to be in business. And hopefully the shock and awe we're past that. And to Chris was talking about earlier, like, guys, it's depressing, right? It's very depressing. All of us go through some level of fear and anxiety and depression. And listen, there's nobody immune from that. It doesn't make a difference if you're a successful business owner who's been doing it for 10 years or you're a real estate agent who's been selling homes for 35 years. It is depressing to feel like you've taken 6 steps back in a matter of 4 weeks. But you got to act like you're going to be here in 3 months and invest accordingly. And the great companies are able to figure out a way to navigate that.
Mm-hmm. There's a great book, I can't remember the name, but I know Mike will know it, about finding the empty parking spot.
Yes.
You remember,
Thank you for
what's the name of that book?
on the spot, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But yes, yeah, finding the empty parking spot. What differentiates you? And oh, by the way, where is there an open space in the market that no one else has latched onto, that nobody else has identified, and you can make yourself prevalent and relevant by putting yourself in that spot and differentiating yourself from everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great book on, and that's what you talk about there, Randy, is positioning, and a great book that everyone should write down. If you haven't written down People Work, Chris gave away the PDF there, but if you haven't read The Conversion Code, buy The Conversion Code. But the other book that we should recommend is by April Dunford. Her name's April Dunford. She's a technology executive. She wrote a book called Obviously Awesome, and it's a book about positioning, and it's the single best book written on positioning, in my opinion. It's an unbelievable breakdown of how you can, as a real estate agent in a market where there are 1,000 other people who do the exact same thing you do on paper, how you can position yourself as someone who's different and unique to help people identify you as someone they would want to hire. That's the game that we're all in right now. As an agent, you have to figure out how you can separate yourself from the pack. Now, you guys, listen, things are difficult right now, but at the very least, if you're looking to look at the bright side, a word that you're not going to hear ever uttered again in any conversation is iBuyer. So, think about that for a second, right? You may be going through a global pandemic, but you're not going to be dealing with all these iBuyer companies that were banging down your door. So there is some positivity here for our community, Randy.
No question. And I think we're probably got 30 seconds left. So, Chris, Jimmy, Mike, any parting words for us?
I'll go first. I mentioned it before. Relative to marketing and what's made you successful to this point in your business, whether that's farming, whether that's social media presence, whatever it may be, in this time, double down on it, because it's what you're good at. It's what has brought you results, and it's what people know you for. It's what the community knows you for. Double down on those efforts.
Yeah, I would just add, nobody knows what to do right now. Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to say that out loud. We're all trying to navigate a unprecedented era in our lives. I mean, my kids are home from school. There's no conferences. There's no restaurants. There's no sports. There's nothing. You can go to the grocery store and home. You can walk your dog and come back home. But the one thing that I would say is that your home matters more than ever. And people are either going to really love their home by the end of this, or they're going to really want to sell their home by the end of this. They're going to be sick of it.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for tuning in with us today. We hope we made this hour worth it. It was our pleasure to be a part of this. Our friends at Chime, thanks for inviting Chris and I to be a part of this and introducing us to your community. We hope we brought value, and we hope you guys got some takeaways.
Thank you for
yeah, this was fantastic. Thank you all again for your time, and thank you everyone for attending today. Y'all take it easy.
Cheers.
Take care, boys.